If you're tired of life, you're not alone, and you're not broken. But you might be disconnected from what makes you feel alive, disconnected from people who remind you of your worth, disconnected from the purpose that gives your struggle meaning. Because when we feel like we can't go on, it's rarely because we're weak. It's because we've been strong for too long, without rest, without joy, without clarity. Feeling tired of life does not mean you're broken. It doesn't mean you're weak, and it certainly doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. What it often means is that you're disconnected from the things that give life meaning, purpose, connection, growth, and belonging. That weariness you feel in your soul isn't a failure on your part. It's a signal, a whisper from within, telling you that something vital has drifted out of reach. We live in a world that constantly measures us by what we produce, how fast we move, and how loud we can be. But humans aren't machines. We aren't built for endless output. We're built for connection to ourselves, to each other, and to something greater than just surviving another day. When that connection frays, when the rhythm of life turns into noise and pressure, we start to shut down. Not because we've given up, but because we've forgotten what we're fighting. When you feel like you're tired of life, take a moment to ask, what am I disconnected from? Am I disconnected from my purpose, the reason I get out of bed in the morning? Am I disconnected from people who truly see me and listen to me? Am I disconnected from my own voice, lost beneath the expectations and noise of the world around me? Many of us walk through life with masks on. We smile when we're supposed to. We say we're fine when we're not. We go to work, come home, scroll, sleep, and repeat. It becomes a loop that slowly dulls the edges. And then one day we look in the mirror and wonder where we went. That's not weak, that's disconnection. Sometimes the most courageous thing you can do is pause, not to give up, but to reconnect, to ask hard questions, to strip away the noise and get back to the basics. What excites? What gives? Who do you feel safe around? What are you pretending to care about just to keep the peace or avoid judgment? The good news is that reconnection is possible. You don't need a major breakthrough or a dramatic life change. You need honesty, you need silence, and you need space to breathe again. Reconnection starts in the small moments, choosing to be present with a friend, taking a walk without your phone, journaling your thoughts without editing them, allowing yourself to feel without. When we reconnect with what matters, the heaviness begins to lift. Not all at once, but enough to remind you that life can be more than, enough to remember that you are still in there, behind the exhaustion, behind the sadness, behind the doubt. You are not broken. The light inside you didn't go out. It just got buried under the weight of everything that doesn't belong. You don't have to fix everything right now. You don't have to have it all figured out. But you do need to stop believing the lie that this is just how it has to be. You were not meant to go through life numb, tired, and distant from your own spirit. You were made to connect, to feel, to grow, and to belong, first and foremost, to yourself. So if you're tired, don't assume the problem. Start with this truth. Maybe the issue isn't that you're broken, but that you're disconnected. And maybe it's time to find your way back. One small, honest, human step at a time. We often grow up believing that fulfillment is something we find, that it's waiting out there, somewhere in the future, in a job, a relationship, a goal achieved, a certain number in our bank account. The world tells us that once we arrive at this magical destination, we'll finally feel whole. We'll be happy, at peace, deeply satisfied. But that idea is misleading. Fulfillment isn't found, it's built slowly, deliberately, through choices, habits, and connections that give life meaning. There's no single event or achievement that hands us lasting contentment. You can land your dream job and still feel empty. You can earn praise, success, even admiration, and still go home and feel like something's missing. Why? Because fulfillment doesn't come from external validation. It comes from alignment, the alignment between who you are, what you believe in, and how you live. The people who feel most alive aren't the ones with the most followers or fame. The ones who have built their lives around values they believe. They've made difficult decisions, turned down shortcuts, and said no to what was easy but empty. Fulfillment isn't given to them, they built it, one choice at a time. Building fulfillment starts with purpose. Not a grand dramatic purpose like changing the world overnight. Purpose can be quiet. It can be serving your community, raising your children with love, creating something meaningful, helping others grow. It's not about being the best, it's about doing something that matters to you. When you live in alignment with that purpose, fulfillment begins to grow, not instantly, steadily. And it's also about contribution. Humans are wired for connection, and we thrive when we feel like our presence makes a difference. It doesn't mean saving everyone or being a hero. It means showing up with integrity, being kind when no one's watching, helping without needing credit. Small actions repeated over time build a life that feels valuable. Another piece of fulfillment is growth. We need to feel like we're evolving, not just repeating the same day. Progress doesn't have to be dramatic, but learning something new, improving a skill, deepening your relationships, healing your past, these things matter. They add up. They create a quiet confidence that you're becoming more of who you were meant. But here's the truth. Building fulfillment isn't always comfortable. It requires patience, and it often involves sacrifice. You may have to let go of things that once looked shiny but now feel hollow. You might need to walk away from the crowd to stay true to yourself. You'll have to choose depth over distraction and substance over status, and some days it'll feel like no one sees your effort. But you'll know because fulfillment doesn't scream, it hums. It's the peace you feel when you're alone, don't need noise to distract you. It's the strength you carry when life gets hard and you still have something worth holding on to. It's the quiet pride of knowing that you're living a true, even if it's not loud. So stop searching for fulfillment like it's hiding in the next big thing. It's not lost. It's not out in your hands, in your decisions, in your willingness to build something meaningful every single day. It doesn't show up all at once, but if you build your life on purpose, on growth, on real connection, fulfillment won't be something you chase. It will be something you carry with you. There's a moment in life when everything feels too heavy. Pressure, the expectations, you start to wonder, feel the exhaustion in your bones, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, even spiritually. And in that moment, the line between rest and surrender can become dangerously blurred. But make no mistake, there is a powerful, life-changing difference. Rest is what your body and soul need to recover. Surrender is what happens when you've convinced yourself that there's no point in trying any. Rest is strength. Surrender is silence. Too often we confuse one for the other, thinking that stepping back means giving up. It doesn't. We live in a world that glorifies hustle and punishes pause. The message is clear. If you're not grinding, you're falling behind. But here's the truth. No one can run forever. Even machines break down without maintenance. So why do we expect ourselves to keep pushing without pause? Why do we treat exhaustion like a badge of honor? Sometimes the most courageous thing you can do is stop, not because you failed, but because you're wise enough to listen to your limit. Rest is not a retreat from purpose. It's a return. It's a reminder that you are not just a doer. You are a human being with rhythms, cycles, needs. Surrender, on the other hand, happens when we let hopelessness take over, when we stop caring, stop believing, stop trying, not because we're at peace, but because we're overwhelmed. It's not a break, it's a breakdown. And what makes surrender so dangerous is that it can wear the same disguise as rest, stepping away, pulling back, going quiet. But while rest heals, surrender hollows us out. So how do you know the difference? Rest feels honest. It may be uncomfortable at first, especially if you're used to constant motion, but deep down, you know it's right. You feel yourself begin to return, your energy, your clarity, your perspective. Even if it takes time, rest brings you back to center. Surrender feels like absence. You disconnect not to recover, but to escape. You avoid rather than reflect. You feel the weight of giving up settle in your chest, and nothing feels lighter, just quieter. But not the kind of quiet kind that feels empty. Choosing rest it's an act of self-respect. It's saying, I matter enough to take care of myself before I fall apart. It's recognizing that in order to keep going, you need to refill what life has drained from you. And the most powerful truth is this: rest can be what saves you from surrender. That moment you take to breathe, to pause, to reflect, it creates space for new strength to rise. You don't have to collapse in order to stop. You don't have to burn out in order to change direction. You're allowed to pause before it's too late. So if you feel like giving up, ask yourself, do I need to surrender or do I just need rest? Don't mistake exhaustion. Don't confuse the need for silence with the end of your story. Sometimes the most important step isn't forward into stillness. Care. You are allowed to rest. You are meant to rest. But don't surrender your potential, your vision, or your purpose just because you're tired. Rest. Then rise. We're taught from a young age to move fast, to chase, to compete, to keep up. Life becomes a series of milestones. Get the grades, get the job, get the house, get ahead. It's as if we're running in a race with invisible competitors, always trying to reach the next finish line. But here's a truth that cuts through all that noise. Life isn't a race. It's a relationship, and how we treat it determines whether we truly live or just sprint until we collapse. When you treat life like a race, everything becomes urgent. Time feels like it's slipping through your fingers. You compare yourself to others constantly, measuring your worth by how much you've achieved, how far you've come, or how well you stack up. If someone gets something before you, a promotion, a relationship, recognition, it feels like you've lost. But what exactly are you losing, and who are you racing? The truth is, there's no finish line in life that declares, there's no referee waiting to hand out medals for who got there first. What really matters isn't speed, It's depth, not how fast you move, but how deeply you live. And that shift in mindset begins when you stop running and start relating to your time, to your work, to your people, and most important, life is a relationship. And like any relationship, it requires presence, care, and attention. You don't build meaningful connections by rushing past people. You build them by slowing down enough to listen, to understand, to share real moments. The same goes for your relationship. If you're constantly pushing, striving, and judging, when do you get to actually know yourself? When do you sit with your thoughts, your values, your dreams, not just your deadline? When you relate to life instead of racing through it, you start to notice. You begin to see beauty in the small, quiet laughter at dinner, the warmth of a sunrise, the satisfaction of doing something well, even if no one is watching. You learn that success isn't just about winning, it's about meaning, it's about alignment, doing what matters in a way that honors who you are. Of course, ambition has its place, growth is good, goals are important, but they shouldn't come at the cost of when you're always rushing, you miss the journey. And that's where life actually happens. The lessons, the connections, the memories, they aren't waiting at some distant finish line, they're here, now, in the messy, imperfect middle. Think about the people who have made the biggest difference in your life. Were they the fastest, the most accomplished? Or were they present, thoughtful, connected? We remember the ones who made us feel seen, heard, and valued, not the ones who simply raced past. So if you find yourself constantly running, ask yourself, what am I racing toward? And more importantly, what am I racing past? Maybe it's time to slow down. Not to fall behind, but to catch up yourself with your life, with what really matters. You don't need to prove your worth by being faster than someone else. You just need to live a life that's true to you. A life where you're not always chasing, but choosing. Where you're not always comparing, but connecting. Because in the end, life doesn't reward you for speed, it rewards you for presence. And when you stop racing and start relating, you'll realize you were never behind, you were just moving too fast to see how far you'd already come. When life feels overwhelming, when the road ahead looks too long and the weight on your shoulders feels too heavy, it's easy to believe that progress requires something big, a breakthrough, a bold move, a grand gesture. But more often than not, the most powerful step you can take isn't the biggest one, it's the smallest one forward. The one that seems almost too small to matter. The one no one sees but you. The one that shifts something inside, not the world, but your world. Tend to underestimate the power of small steps because they don't look impressive. They don't go viral. They don't earn applause. Small steps are what build, they're what turn a stuck life into a moving one. They're what keep us grounded when we feel like we're drowning. Single breath, single choice, single act. You don't climb a mountain in one. You take it step by step, often while your legs ache and your mind whispers that you should stop. But each step forward, no matter how small, even when the peak is hidden by clouds, even when progress feels invisible, those steps are what move you from despair to Sometimes the smallest step is getting out of bed when your heart is heavy. Sometimes it's sending a message to someone when you'd rather isolate. Sometimes it's drinking a glass of water, going for a short walk, or writing down one honest sentence. These things seem minor, but they're not. They're proof that you haven't given up, that you're still choosing to engage with life even when it hurts. We get stuck thinking that if we can't do it all, we shouldn't do anything, that if we can't fix everything, there's no point trying. But that mindset is a trap. Waiting until you feel ready, strong, or fully confident is how you stay exactly where you are. Courage doesn't arrive first, it shows up in motion, it builds with action. That small step forward, it breaks the illusion of paralysis. It sends a signal to your mind and body that you are not powerless, that you're not stuck, you're simply in the middle, and there is a way through, even if you can only see one step ahead. That's all you need right now, not the entire path, just enough light for one step. The beauty of small steps is that they compound. 1 turns into 2, 2 turns into 5, and soon, the very thing that once felt impossible starts to shift. You may not notice the change right away, but over time, those tiny acts of bravery add up. They shape your mindset, they rebuild your trust in yourself. They remind you that you are capable of moving through the hard things. The world loves to celebrate giant leaps, but lives aren't changed in a single moment, they're changed in thousands. Each time you decide to try again, to show up, to keep going. Not because but because it's worth it. So don't wait for everything to be perfect. Don't wait for the fear to disappear. Just take one small step forward toward healing, toward clarity, toward something that matters to you. It won't look dramatic, but it will be powerful because that's how all real change begins. Not with noise, but with quiet, determined steps. That's all it takes to begin again. In a world moving at lightning speed where attention is short and comparison is constant, it's easy to feel like you don't matter, like your presence is small, your efforts invisible, and your voice just one. But that feeling, as convincing as it may seem, is not the truth. The truth is you matter more than you think. You matter in ways you may never fully see. The kind word you said to someone at the right time, the smile you offered, the way you showed up when someone needed support, even if you didn't have the right words. Those moments might have felt ordinary to you, but to someone else, they weren't. They were a lifeline, a turning reason to keep going. We tend to measure our worth in loud, visible ways, titles, followers, achievements, but real impact isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's invisible. Sometimes the way you make others feel safe, the way you listen without judgment, the way you keep going even when no one is watching, that kind of presence, that kind of consistency ripples further than you know. You might not realize it, but someone looks up to you. Someone is learning from your resilience, your kindness, your honesty. You may never hear them say it, but your courage inspires them to keep trying. Your story, even the parts you're still working through, is showing someone else that they're not, and that's powerful. You matter not because of what you do, but because of who you are. You bring a unique blend of experience, personality, and perspective into the world that no one else can replicate. Your laugh, your insight, your presence, they are not replaceable. You may feel small, but you hold space in someone's life in a way that no one else can. Even when you're struggling, even when you feel like you've failed or fallen short, you still matter. Struggle doesn't subtract from your value. In fact, the way you keep going in the midst of uncertainty speaks volumes. It shows strength, it shows heart, and it reminds others that they don't have to be perfect to be worthy. It's easy to overlook your own importance when life is heavy, when you're just trying to make it through the day, but in those moments, you're often doing the most meaningful work, staying present, showing up, holding on. That quiet endurance, it's not nothing, it's everything. You don't need to have it all figured out to make a difference. You don't need to be loud, famous, or flawless. You just need to be you, fully, honestly, consistent. Because being yourself in a world that constantly tries to tell you who to be is an act of courage, and it makes a difference. So the next time you doubt your worth, pause and remember, the world is better because you're in it, not because of what you've accomplished, but because of how you live, the way you care, the way you try, the way you love, even when it's hard. You matter more than you think. More than you'll ever fully know. And even when you can't see the impact you're making, trust that it's there, growing quietly in the hearts and lives of people around, going you. That's more than enough.